Prototyping isn't new. Indeed, humans have been prototyping for centuries. Every idea or dream humans have made tangible has involved different ways of prototyping, more or less sophisticated. For instance, the genius Leonardo da Vinci used prototyping for his inventions, as the Wright brothers did to create the airplane. With digital technology influencing almost every single sphere of our lives, prototyping has become even more important. Let's get into this new episode of Tech Talk. Welcome to a new episode of Tech Talk. Today, we have a special guest who actually works at PwC Luxembourg, but more specifically at the Experience Center. His name is Edouard Nollet, and he's a senior manager at the Experience Center. So also, we have Carla accompanying us. Carla,
Hello.
How are you? All good?
I'm fine. All good. Exciting about this podcast.
Yes, I think it's what is it? I never mentioned the subject, but
Exactly. That's why.
Yes. So, I already gave you some hints because I mentioned Experience Center, which is all about the UX, UI, co-creation, etc. But specifically, the topic of today is prototyping. And Edouard he has worked a lot on the matter. So the idea is to learn about what this is, what it's useful for, and why companies should embrace it. Generally speaking, for innovation and for any endeavor like requires creation and bringing up new things. So welcome, Edouard.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So how are you?
Very good. Very happy
good.
to be here
That's
with
good.
you.
Our pleasure.
Thanks a lot. And
Yes.
I hope soon Carla and I could go to the Experience Center like we did, before, it was our house almost. You know me, and I've been there so many times ago.
Well, it's
So-
a nice place to go.
Yeah, it is a nice place.
Cool
to go.
kitchen.
Very good, very nice coffee as well. So I will kick off the episode asking Edouard the very basic question, and it's just what is a prototype and what isn't a prototype?
Sure. Thank you for starting with the definition of prototype. I mean, we do a lot of sessions with clients, and they are a bit afraid of prototypes because prototypes looks like something complex to do or technically hard to set up. But basically, a prototype is everything except complex. That's a bit the principle. It's a tool for conception, so for conception of products or services. But this tool is a tool that should stay anyhow low cost, easy to implement, and helps to do small steps after steps.
Yeah, it's true. What you think of prototypes, probably, what we have in mind is a sort of an engine, a sort of physical thing that does things, and it looks like complex and engineering, resolved. I guess, and that's what people think.
Sure. In reality, the objective of prototyping is just to test the appetite of a client. So you can have a drawing and consider that it is a prototyping because you can learn from this. And the prototyping principle is that you should learn from each prototype you do. Mm-hmm. And we have in mind these complex prototypes with engines, that's true, which are more like proof of concepts. I mean, if you see the mock-ups of targets or things that you launch in the sky, it's more proof of concepts. It's not really prototype. And a prototype for a car, for example, would be how it looks like and how clients are accepting the prototype.
Last week we launched a blog article on co-creation, and it was with one of your colleagues, Garoy Weber. And actually, if I understand correctly, prototyping is part of the co-creation process. So it would be very nice if you can explain where, in the co-creation timeline, prototyping falls. Where can we place it?
It's a part of the co-creation principle because you are co-creating with your clients. You are producing an idea, and how can you test this idea against the client? So you need to build a prototype, present it to a client, and learn from it. And I'm referring to the car industry when they do concept cars. They present the concept cars, and the designers are in the room to check the acceptance of the concept car against the population of people present. So it's part of the co-creation, definitely co-creating with your client. The shape or the outcome is the prototype.
Okay. May I go, Luis?
Yes, that's what I wanted to say. Carla, I know you have a very interesting, the third one is a very, very cool question.
Yeah, well, in the previous decades, I guess innovation was sort of seen as a secret weapon in a hidden bunker. At least I can picture it like that. But, well, the R&D, the research and development, the department run design of new products from A to Z. So how different is prototyping in those times and comparing to how it is done nowadays? What is the evolution, let's say?
That's true that before R&D was secret and everything was hidden until the product was launched. And then you discover whether the public is accepting it or not. And I remember a car called the Fiat Multipla. I don't know if you remember this car from the 80s. It was a 3 space at the front, and it was completely
I've seen it.
Awful. And people realized that no one wants to buy this car at the time except in Italy. I checked on Google.
Yes.
It was
I'm checking it out, and yes,
Yeah.
I remember it. Yes.
So it was a disaster, and that was how they did R&D at the time. With prototyping, the big difference is you can't achieve that kind of fail because you are testing in order to learn what is fail somehow and what is success. So I would say that through prototyping, you invest a lot in many small ideas. Some are good, some are bad, but you can invest a lot on the right ideas. That's the big shift. Instead of investing a lot in what you believe it's true.
So you have to be open-minded to maybe some new ideas will come from the ideas that you thought would be the right ones in the first place, right?
Exactly. So you need to accept failing, and you need to accept that prototype and prototyping is there to fail. Fail fast and cheap, but at least fail to learn.
I love that one. Prototyping is there to fail. Wow, Edouard, that is an awesome quote.
I guess that's not always easy for clients, for instance. They might want an idea and stick to it. So how do you deal with that, for instance, if that's the case?
Yeah, I remember a quote which was, he might not be right, but he is the boss. And prototyping is the opposite. I mean, he might be right, but if the client says it's wrong, then he might be the boss. It's wrong. So that's the big strength of prototyping.
When I think of when the TV was launched, I think back in the 50s, if I am not wrong, I read people were accepting whatever was launched because there was room for that. Everything was kind of new. It's like all the appliances and these kind of things were new, so we didn't have any reference to compare.
No standards.
No standards. So at that point in time, for all the big manufacturers, it was an awesome time, and because everything could be sold. And it's now when the markets are saturated, when there's a lot of competition, I think it has gone to the next level. It's because of the circumstances we live nowadays. Do you think so?
I'm not sure to understand your question.
Yeah, well, because the market now we have offers everywhere. Every single product has
10, 20, 30 versions of the same with different manufacturers. So they have to get better and better and better to attract the buyer. But before, imagine in the 50s when nobody had TV, the first TV or whatever TV that was launched in the market was bought.
It's true. I think, again, we are back maybe to the importance of putting the customer at the center of the creation. The competition is very high in any sector. And I mean, blue ocean innovation still exists, but it's rare that from an existing company you choose this way. You are more choosing a way to improve your services, and customers' voice is the best way to be sure that you are addressing the right demand for the right customers. And prototyping is a way to gather some insight from customers. When you have a product live already, it's not a prototype anymore, but you can prototype new features and present them to client to ensure that you are improving in the right direction. And it's very close to lean startup. Lean startup, you start with a very basic product, which is a kind of prototype with a proof of concept embedded. And then you try to add a feature, measure this feature. If it's good, I mean, if the client wants it, then you continue this way. If the client doesn't want it, immediately you step back and try something else. And it's again prototyping a lot, to test a lot, and invest a lot in invest small bits in many ideas to invest a lot in the right ones.
Now, wireframes and prototypes. In my basic knowledge on this matter, on this subject, I read, and I also did a very simple course one day, but I remember they said that they tend to be mixed. People refer to one or the other one like interchangeably. And are they different? Are they the same?
In the software industry or in the service industry, when you go digitally, you design applications. And starting an application from scratch is quite difficult because you have an idea in mind, and there are different levels of prototypes. First, you need to understand exactly what is the problem you want to solve. And as soon as you have that, you can start with concept testing. So you basically do the first prototype with the concept. You can use paper, pen, drawings, Lego, and then you immediately go to a client. And we did that, for example, when we did the service design jam in the Experience Center. So after 2 days from an idea, you have to have a prototype. And it's a bit of pressure to set a prototype after 2 days, but it's a way to test if you are going the right direction immediately.
I remember that service jam. It was very nice.
It was very nice. And we had these students which were very creative. So with with a paper box, you can build a car or whatever. And it's the imagination which is important. It's not that it looks like a car.
And I remember, the teams had to go to the city of Luxembourg and solve real problems and ask people. I remember the exercise was something like that.
Yeah, and we did that with the service design jam, and we did that also with some clients. Clients coming for a sprint, and we tell them, build a questionnaire with your ID and go and meet people in the street. And they were very afraid of meeting people in the street. But as soon as they've started the first questionnaire, they wanted to know more from clients. And when they were back in the Experience Center, they said that they've never heard so many insights from customers.
That's so
and that they are living their life of, bankers or employees or anything, but they rarely wear the shoes of their customers. But when they do this exchange, presenting their prototype, it needs to be courageous, but when they are doing it, they are very proud of themselves and very sure that they are moving the right direction.
Oh, that's very nice.
Yeah,
Well,
so,
I have. Go ahead.
There was the basic prototype, low fidelity with paper, and it doesn't require any tech skills, but it's more on the storytelling. And then you're mentioning wireframing. So wireframing is a more advanced prototype, and there are tools to design these wireframes. Then you have something which looks more like an application. You can use a simulator to do so.
Okay.
And then you have prototypes until you go live.
So they are mostly digital, let's say the wireframes.
Yes.
Okay.
You move to
got it. Okay, got it.
Okay.
Carla, you had something ready to say.
Yes. Prototyping is commonly used for new product development, or NPD, but is it possible to apply prototyping to services development?
Totally. I mean, any business could be prototyped from manufacturing to services, from business to consumer, from B2C and B2B, so business to business. So what we do mainly is prototyping services, prototyping platforms, softwares. You can prototype any idea or service. Recently, just an example, we had a request to prototype a stock exchange. And prototyping the New York Stock Exchange might be difficult, but prototyping a stock exchange is very basic. It's just exchanging cards. I want to buy, I want to sell. And you can even learn a lot from that.
Wow.
Yeah, that's, and especially,
I would never thought about that.
And also, I think the question, Carla, is very timely, because the world is moving towards a service society. You have a lot of now subscriptions, even subscriptions for the, I enrolled lately to a kind of a fitness subscription. Before it was just one pay and that's it, and now it's a subscription and you get new things every month. And everything, it's like all the streaming, music, even big manufacturers renting things for agriculture, this equipment for agriculture. Also, I read they are going into this service development. So that's interesting.
And definitely prototyping is not having something ready to sell or ready to go on the market. It's just one step to learn. And I'm referring also to Amazon, what they do with their working backward innovation process. It is somehow a kind of prototyping. They are writing a letter to clients saying, we have this product, even if the product doesn't exist yet. But it's a way to test, and somehow it's a prototype. If we would give you this product, would you buy it?
And how long should this stage normally take?
The
prototyping stage, yes.
It depends on the complexity, of course. It depends on many things. But until you have questions about clients' expectation, client desires, you can prototype. So you should start very early. That's the main thing you should remind. Start as early as possible and continue always with very small steps. A prototype should test one or two things, and then you move to another prototype. If you try to test too many things at the same time, the risk is that you don't know what is the right or bad assumption.
You also mentioned involving customers. So is it correct to say that you can involve customers in the prototyping stage?
True. You can involve them in creating the prototype, like doing a focus group and telling them, here are the blocks, how would you assemble them? Or you definitely need to meet customers, meet clients to test your prototype and gather their feedback.
I just, I thought, am I correct? Is it prototyping is really a stage, or is like an ongoing action that happens along the co-creation process?
No, you're right. It's not one step. It's a mindset of testing small bits always.
Okay. Now I got it. I think in the beginning I thought it was stage, but then with your answers I realized that actually you prototype, you come back, you prototype, you come back, you get something done, you prototype.
And there is something also which is interesting with prototyping. It is the moment where you mix the theory and the practical. And when you start designing or building a prototype, then you realize the inconsistency or the things that you did not expect to happen, which could be good things, unexpected positive things, or unexpected bad things.
Exactly. That's a very good point.
So,
Luis, do you have
yes,
any
of
questions?
course, I always have questions in this matter. Yeah, the next one is if prototyping, it seems like a bunch of things inside. I mean, there must be methods to prototype or techniques to prototype. So, is there any particular you want to mention, or you know better, or you prefer?
In terms of
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned, for instance, there are simple prototypes. Then you said there are complicated or more. You also mentioned something like you can do even a prototype on a paper, on a napkin. I understand. So that must be a type of prototyping, but I guess there are more sophisticated types of prototyping.
Yeah, we should not mix. I mean, again, prototyping is a basic setup of a concept. So it could be any shape, any form, anything. Proof of concept is the technology part. So you test technology, and there is a moment where proof of concept and prototype should meet. And that's where you start having something working, looking like what you want it looks to be, like the client expects it. And then you start the POC is the proof of concept, and then you move to the MVP, so minimum viable product. So you have the first platform working like the client wants. What could be interesting is the life of the prototype in parallel to the life of the proof of concept. And one day they meet together and they become the minimum viable product. And from there, you go on the market. You can start selling, going to the marketing side. What's the market? What's the cost? What's the price? What's the expectation? Market segment, etc. And you can still, in this live stage, prototype, but more features, not a product, not a full product anymore.
So indeed, it is an ongoing process at all times.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this is a late question because you've mentioned this a few times, but can you tell us what is proof of concept? I mean, maybe Luis knows what it is, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah.
I'm not the smart guy here.
Well,
the typical proof of concept would be you want to achieve something, but you don't know if the technology is there. And like Jules Verne, when he prototyped the submarine in 20,000 miles under the sea, he had this concept of a submarine. He could test it eventually with the lecturer, but the technology was not there. So no proof of concept at the time.
Okay. Well, thanks for that. And according to your experience, which are the main prototyping traps to avoid? What are the things that, you should avoid?
Yeah, prototyping is close to the user research part, and the first bias you need to avoid is the bias of confirmation. You have an idea in mind, and it's very difficult to ask yourself, is it a good idea? Instead of asking someone, do you like this? Changing the question to something like, how would you do it? So it's the first bias, the first trap is the bias of confirmation. Second trap would be investing too much in a prototype. I mean, trying to test too many things or trying to achieve too many things. The purpose of the prototype is to stay basic and to test one concept. And finally, I mean, the last thing would be to try testing too many things at the same time and not knowing what the client likes.
That's interesting. That I don't know. Reminds me of the A/B testing in digital marketing, Carla, where you should test only one and only one variable. Otherwise, they're not really what it's influencing the results.
Exactly.
Yeah. And
That's
according to your experience, Edouard, this question really the answer should be based on your experience. Okay, that's what we would like to hear. So, what has been successful when you have been running these exercises with students or clients? The best practice when it comes to prototyping. Is there any tips you can give?
What is the most interesting is the way that people don't think that they are imaginative or they are creative, but once they are onboarded on the story, they could tell a real story around a cube. They are convinced that this cube is magic. This cube can do anything. It's a bit of wood, but no, it's a plane and it flies, and people are convinced that the cube can fly. I mean, yeah.
So it's also the power of mind.
Yes. So it's. I mean, what you mean basically, what you mean is all the great minds in the history of the world have been also great storytellers.
True.
Oh, you like that, Luis, right?
Of course. I mean, of course. You mentioned the story, and I am happy.
But when you do it and you are not realizing that you are doing it with your full potential.
Yeah.
And that's when you start onboarding the people into that, the clients or the students, when they are into that, they are looking the cube like a magic one.
Yeah, well, definitely there should be passion involved and believe and will and all these kind nice words. Definitely. And is there any additional question you have in mind, Carla?
No, that's all.
Not
from
really?
my side. No.
I have one actually, Edouard. So UX design. It's everybody talks about UX design now. So prototyping is part of a UX design process, or
Yes.
there is no connection.
No, it's totally part of the role of designers to do prototyping. And again, also prototyping is not like just designing a screen. It's imagining how the client comes in on the app, for example, how the client would react when he sees the first screen. So what he sees in 5 seconds. So that's where prototype we have some tests, which is the 5-second test. You show a screen 5 seconds, you shut down the screen, and you say to the client, "What did you see?" Mm-hmm. So that's typically the purpose of the UX designer, so user experience designers, to do prototypes and measure the success of prototype. And again, I think I mentioned it, but in the car industry, designers are not the one that draws cars and release the drawings. They are the people which are drawing and also talking to people to assess if the prototype is going the right direction. So UX designer, they are doing the same.
If before I was already, when I was testing something or using something that wasn't friendly, I was saying, oh, this is not UX design friendly. Now I would say this hasn't been properly prototyped. What do you think?
True. And that's also a common thing that we realize now, is that there is a raise of demand of simplicity. I mean, we are working on a product these days, and the common demand from every user is, if it's simple, if it's easy to use, definitely there will be success. But if it's too complex, people won't move to digital. They would stay to archaic methods.
Of course, and when you have such a big competition of different tools everywhere, and you are, how to say? Yes.
Finish the idea. Sorry.
No, it's just you are bombarded with so many products and tools at the same time that, basically you just want something simple. You don't want to lose a lot of your time learning how something works.
Yes,
And
exactly.
one example from my private life is I was in the mobile payment space, and we were trying to solve this issue of paying with a mobile phone. And after a few years, I realized that one player has succeeded in the mobile payment space. It's Uber, because they succeed in doing invisible payment. So people were paying volumes of payments on their mobile, but not realizing that they were paying.
Yeah.
And that's typically the simplicity of the service that makes it so successful.
Yeah, even it became a verb. I know I read when a company name becomes a verb,
Really?
that means it's absolutely embedded in the culture. Yeah, you say Google it,
Yes,
you say
that's true.
Uber it, you say Uberization, you say Amazonization, you say, so those names became verbs, and that is cool, but it's scary sometimes. you know.
And I would love to see the prototyping part that they did and they are still doing.
Yeah. I read a very nice quote. I don't remember exactly word by word what the quote was, but it was saying like, you have achieved perfection or success in design when you have nothing to add to the, to whatever you have done. What you have, it is. There is nothing else to add. And people actually can use it properly and in an effective and enjoyable way. So, Edouard, I think you have been awesome today. You have walked us through prototyping, what it is, what it's not, why it's important, some examples, some personal experiences. And I think now I will change. I won't say anymore UX is badly UX design, but it's badly prototyped.
Exactly.
So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And have an awesome rest of the day and a very nice week.
Thank you very much.
Ciao, Edouard.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So I hope you enjoyed the episode, and actually my final question is, what are you going to prototype next? Thanks a lot for tuning in. Until the next one. Ciao.